Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have an update on that art space that was being demolished by those absolute thugs. Well, if you ever wanted to see what happens in real life when you thought you left the bullies behind in high school and you are actually a real life adult in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s, still dealing with bullies or a bully that is in their 90s, well, this is what happens when you don't stand up to abusive authority and power. It becomes a hot mess, perhaps a little bit entertaining for you to watch what's about to happen, but an absolute mess. So if you haven't watched the previous video, it's titled "This is Wrong," and it was absolutely wrong. My friend Julie, who started this amazing art space with absolutely no government funding, although when you look at it from all intents and purposes, it is essentially like a nonprofit art space that is completely being operated in a commercial, self-sustaining nature, that had a horrible incident last month where she was doused with a high-pressured water hose, among other things, where these gangsters for hire were brought into the building to demolish it, and you could see them physically assault people, break property so that it can no longer be used for business, and even bring in bulldozers so that they could start tearing down the building, even though she is the master tenant on the lease. The lease is not up yet, and this came from her own business partner. So the antics don't even stop there. And this is why I'm titling this video, "Them Has No Class," because they will run the CCTV and we'll just keep explaining, but this is self-explanatory, but this is what they try to do in retaliation again. Yeah, those are 3 full-size cars that are going into an interior space that is an art exhibition gallery. Yeah, there's no place for cars in that spot. And they parked the cars there deliberately so that they could interfere with regular business operations. They broke in the early morning hours, and it was all caught on CCTV. Makes no sense. Them have no class. So what happened after the big standoff and all of the media coverage that was negative against the gangsters? The gangsters briefly went to jail, and it was like a slap on the wrist, because you have to understand that actually the building owner also has a shady past, but because of his shady past, yet he amassed a real estate empire. He's highly connected behind the scenes, and he can afford the absolute best lawyers. And if you're in Korea and you can hire the best lawyers, you essentially have like all the inner workings and connections with the judges, and you can determine essentially the way that a court ruling can go. And so in that sense, you already have the hands tipped in your favor. And so that is kind of who we're dealing against. And so even though the fight is against a business partner, the business partner is aligned with the building owner. And it looked like the business partner is sort of like kind of an apprentice of the building owner, who's like in his 90s, and apparently he's like really kind of, just probably kumbayaing now and it just probably doesn't want to be involved in all of this, but the people who are really aggressive now, I think, are trying to figure out like their retirement plan with this space, and they've been having problems with trying to, turn a profit, and they've been going all sorts of crazy on this deal. So the artists held protests, but they did it in this very artistic way. They held dances, concerts, exhibitions, peaceful rallies. And they even made sure that they all showed up and camped inside the building to occupy it, to make sure that they stopped the demolition. The judge ordered a halt to the demolition until they could review the evidence and the actual rental contract and the case. And so until that was finished, they needed to make sure that the thugs didn't illegally demolish the building and just be like, oh, well, I guess we can't do anything about it anyway, like, water under the bridge. So they camped out, and then they turned it into like a fabulous place regardless, because there are like some dancers, so they put like drapery over like places, so even though it was like horribly demolished, they made it look really nice. And I think they started, I bet, to get jealous, because these are the type of people who can't do themselves, so they try to always destroy what other people do. I mean, that's all they can do. And so I think that's what they're continually trying to do. And so that antic didn't work with the demolition. The antic didn't work with the cars, although the cars are still there and the cars continued to be there. And then just until a couple of days ago, they removed one car. Now here's more video where they came and showed up basically the night before, where they had to turn in more evidence to the judge. So I guess it was a play to try to distract them, to make sure that perhaps their legal case wouldn't be as strong with another distraction. But it didn't work in the end, because a lot of people again showed up to support Julie and her artistic circle. And they showed up with a big old truck, and I think they just hired these people because they claimed that they were going to set up a business there. They're going to leave the two cars there, and in front of those two cars, they were going to set up like a swap meet. They were going to sell like frying pans, and they were going to sell like aluminum foil. They were going to sell like, power drinks or something like that. Like, I don't know. It looked like it was expired. It looked like it was stolen merchandise. And it literally fell off the back of a truck. And so they got into this heated altercation. Police were called. Finally, the police did sort of something, but still, you're wondering why the cars are still there. The police said that they can't do anything, that you have to have like the city issue an ordinance to get the cars out. That makes no sense. I mean, literally, if these cars were next to like the Estee Lauder counter at like the Hyundai department store, they would be gone in a second, okay? It makes no sense. But they're still there. And it just is baffling about like the kind of like low level kind of antics that they're willing to go to. They're pretty surprised that she hasn't folded. And this is what happens when they're used to people folding much earlier than this. This is because these are also older bullies. So you've got to kind of know that like they've been used to winning up until now. You see how low level of bullying has been supported for so long. How many people are there in Korea that have been hurt and abused and are walking around with PTSD and scars from so many like untalented and unsophisticated bullies who can get away with so much. And there are so many other cases recently in the other parts of the news where people are just so easy, like especially women are so easily blackmailed into situations that come from all sorts of angles, like even like their coworkers, that should not be so easily accomplished. And a lot of it happens because we don't speak up fast enough. And so in this case, I think a lot of people quickly came to her aid. And that's why we are seeing such a different outcome. Also, these guys really underestimated Julie and her network because it's not just the artists. She has a lot of other people on her side that come from the non-artistic community. And I'm not going to say because that's her hidden card, but let's just say that there are other power movers behind her. And then also, she rents out the second floor as a co-working space. So there are like 30 independent business people up there who also are affected by a lot of these antics, and they come down to support, and they do not want to have suddenly to have like a swap meet there affecting their business and to ruin client relations when their clients come up to meet them. This is just egregious, and it's probably not going to be the end of it. So I just wanted to give you that quick update. What does it look like when you don't speak up for many cycles? And I say that in terms of like years at a corporation, generations in a family, many different cycles of leadership within a company. It turns into something like this, where like the apprentice of this 90-year-old man who has cultivated this really decades-long system of graft has been able to create an expectation of really low-level thuggery winning in such a high-priced property market to be able to pull this kind of antics. In all other situations, this guy would not even be able to set foot into this type of price per square foot property and do anything like this. Makes no sense. Makes no sense. Anyhow, guys, them has no class. That's all I'm saying. We'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Tune in next time. Don't forget to subscribe. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Love you.